everyone, it's the English Simmer here and welcome back to another Tips Tuesday. So this video has been highly requested for quite a while on my channel now, probably like a year and a half. This video has been requested by you guys in the comments numerous times. However, I always kind of put it off because it's quite difficult and it's quite individual, and it is, as you can probably tell from the title, is how I create Sims. Everyone always tweets me or leaves comments on my videos like, how do you make your Sims look different? Mine always look the same, and things like that. And first off, there's nothing wrong with your Sims looking the same. That basically just means that you have an art style. You have this basis that you go off to create your Sims, and that is the main pillar of starting to create different looking Sims. If you already have an art style, the way I see it is create a Sim is like art styles. I have people commenting on my videos like, oh, all your Sims look the same, like you can tell that they're made by you. But in my mind, that's not a negative. That's basically a clean slate to work from, and you know what you can do with create a Sim as a tool. And you can also then start switching it up in little parts and things like that to start making your Sims look a little bit different from one another. When I first got The Sims 4, my Sims were way more out there in a sense. Like, they all look very different and they all kind of had like a completely different style to them just because I was getting used to The Sims 4. Whereas now that I've got comfortable with it, I've got more comfortable with making the same kind of style of Sims. But how I got into it is I started looking at pictures of models and things like that, looking at pictures of other Sims. Tumblr has a really cool Sim culture in some of them are quite chubby cheeked, big-eyed, and they look very anime cartoonish, whereas I feel YouTube Sims, there's all these different subcultures, whereas YouTube Sims are kind of a little bit more realistic. Some people do cartoony. I tend to go for more realism in my Sims, and I'm just going to be talking through my most important things for creating Sims. So to me, the three most important factors that truly define how a Sim looks. I'm going more for facial features. I'm not really going to go through clothes or anything. You decide on a style as I'm kind of creating Sims. So the style kind of just comes to me halfway through, and I'm like, oh, I want her to be this kind of Sim or this kind of Sim, or I want him to be interested in this and his clothes are going to show that part of him. So I feel style definitely comes to me as I'm making the Sim, whereas I feel the main features of the face are, number one, the eyes. So the eye size, the eye placement, and I am very similar. All my Sims kind of tend to have the same eyes, which I am trying to get out of the habit because I do want to switch things up a little bit. But yeah, for now, they all tend to have the same kind of eyes. Then eyebrows, because they frame the eyes and they just make your Sim, they really define a Sim. And then also the jawline. The jawline is one of the most important things on my Sims. I tend to go for wider jawlines and bigger chins, whereas I know a lot of people kind of squish faces in a way in The Sims. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I kind of prefer my Sims to have more defined jawlines and chins. I mean, I'm just basically in my create Sims, I just make up for what I lack in my own facial features. So great eyebrows, great jawline and chin, and then defined eyes. So I kind of take everything off the Sim, as you just saw. I take the hair off, I take the makeup off, just so I have a completely clean blank slate to start with, and it's kind of like building or painting on a canvas. Eyebrows, I always tend to go thicker on the eyebrows unless I decide that these kind of brows suit a Sim. I tend to go for ones like these that are super thick and have you can really define them in a way. This video is going to be so mumbly, just so you know. I haven't planned this at all. I'm kind of just sitting down and saying the first things that come into my head. So eyebrows, I tend to go for bushier eyebrows which define the face. I always tend to have them quite low down. Some people I feel when they stretch them up, it really stretches up the eyelids too far in The Sims 4, so I do always have them like either the closest to or just above the eye. For the eyes, I tend to always go smaller. I don't know what it is about my Sims and smaller eyes, but like the default size is like this, and to me that's too big. Like that is too cartoony for me personally. So I always go with smaller eyes in The Sims, which I feel like a lot of people always go bigger. Like people will always have big eyes on their Sims, whereas I like to go pretty darn small. I also use the defaults a lot. I feel like a lot of people don't use these and just work off whatever they are given here, but the defaults are so handy. Do not look down on yourself for using defaults that are in the game. They are seriously so handy, especially if you want diversity and different cultures. I will hold my hand up and say I am not the best at creating diverse Sims. It's probably because I don't do it that often. There are default eyes to really help you with that and to get the features of certain things. So I really do feel like default is a great thing, and you really shouldn't be ashamed to use the default settings. I also always use custom skins. You guys ask me all the time what skins I have. I can't really remember what they're called. This one's called Abriana. I use this an awful lot. Then this one I think is an MS Blue skin, but I'm not too sure. Like I use this quite a bit as well. And then Luna skin 2. I think this is actually Luna. I think this is Luna version 1 and then this is Luna version 2. But Abriana is what I use a lot of the time. I'm sure if you just like search Abriana Sims 4 skin, you will be able to find it. I always give them a custom skin just because I like the smoothness that it gives on the sim. And I also have default skin tones, but I really don't know where I got these from. So I do apologize that I really can't remember where these are from. So like I was saying with the eyes, I do always tend to go smaller, and then you kind of just work with whatever shape you want for the eyes. Like I just really mess around with my Sims. I'm like, right, how do I kind of want you looking? Like, which way do I want your like pupils to be sat? I go through a lot of things with my Sims where I'm like, okay, this isn't right. It's just trial and error, to be completely honest with you. It's just like what you want to see in your Sim. I wish I could give like more specific points to building Sims, because I feel like this is going to be a very generic video in the sense that I'm going to be like, you know, I don't really do anything special. I just kind of mess around with things, but that's the way it really is. I would say if you are struggling to create Sims, I would definitely look at models and things like that. Try and create Sims based off those people, celebrities, models, things like that. Try to recreate them in your game, and you really will get a sense of how Create a Sim works and the different features that you can use. Also with the eyes, I tend to sit them quite far apart on my Sim's face. I don't know what it is about it. I'm just going to change her jawline quickly because it's like throwing me off a little bit, but I always seem to have my eyes sat a little bit further apart than the default positioning, and again, smaller eyes. I cannot stress that enough. And then if I don't feel like the eyebrows are working with a specific Sim, I'll change them up. Don't be afraid to like change things up as you go along. You don't have to sit on one thing at all. You can change it however many times you like, and if it goes wrong and you feel like you messed up, just hit undo. The undo button is a savior in Create a Sim. I genuinely don't even know what I'm talking about in this. Oh my goodness, your eyebrows are not working for you. Seriously, we gotta fix this. Right, let's go for that. Let's bring them. Okay. So she's got quite a wide bridge from her eyebrows, which means that I am gonna make her, I'm gonna give her a nose actually. Let's go for this one. That's fine. I always tend to have smaller noses as well, and most of the time they aren't like super curvy. Like I see a lot of people going for like the proper curve in The Sims, but I tend to have like quite straight noses with my Sims. I don't know what it is. I feel like it's because I have quite a straight nose in like reality. But the main key to making your Sims look different is try not to do exactly what you do all the time, every single time you create a Sim. You want to try and switch things up a little bit. Yes, there'll be stuff that you're more comfortable with and you think your Sims look better with, but don't feel like you completely have to stick with that. Just because one sim turned out quite nice, don't feel like you should have to stick to what they look like, because your sims are never going to change if you do that. So this girl, like I said, I do go quite low on the eyes as well. Same with the eyebrows. My positioning for my sim's face are always quite low on their face, which I feel like a lot of people do. Because I feel like sometimes when they're up here, it makes the face look far too long from like the downside. So although it makes your like sim's forehead look a fair bit bigger, I prefer it to making like this part of their face look super long. So she's looking pretty cute. Again, defaults I always use. You guys will see this in my creator sims. I will always use default, and then you just work from the default, like putting in whatever you want to put in, changing things up. I feel like the best advice I can give is definitely go onto Tumblr and just like search sims, because the amount of like unique sims you will find on that thing, and if you try to recreate them, you're gonna get a completely unique sim that you've probably never made before in your entire life, because people on that site are just like crazy. They do some crazy stuff with the game, and it's great. Also with the chins, I kind of go for whatever suits the sim. I always tend to go for quite a small chin, like quite pointy in a way, especially because I feel like when The Sims 4 first came out, when I was creating female sims, for some reason they looked very masculine, and I don't really know why that was. I think it was just like I was so used to creating sims in The Sims 3 and they never really turned out masculine looking, whereas I don't think the skin tones in this helped either. But when I had like a jaw like this, whereas that's like a jaw that I go for a lot of the times nowadays, I feel like that always looked quite masculine with the default skin. Let me just take her skin off for a second. Like, I don't know what it is about this skin, but it kind of makes your sim look like they have stubble for female sims. And that's why I always suggest downloading at least one custom skin that you like, because it kind of gets rid of the odd shadowing that sometimes occurs in The Sims 4. So she's looking cute. I do like her. I mean, I am distracted as well. I don't know what it is, but I feel like creating a sim and talking at the same time is just something I don't do, like, at all. So it's kind of like throwing me off a little bit. But yeah, I always create my sims bald, which some people find weird, I know. Like, on some of my creator sims, the sims look odd until I put hair on them. I feel like hair plays a big part as well, because it can really make your sim look completely different. You could create a sim without any hair and you'd be really happy with her. You'd be like, yeah, you know what, she's looking good. I'm happy with the way she looks. Seriously, why can't I extend this bit? There we go, that's what I needed to do. Oh my goodness, they are square. See, this is like every day. Sometimes your eyebrows just don't work with what you want to do. Right, let's get a bit of an arch in there. You are looking like my eyebrows at the moment. I have zero arch in my eyebrows. There we go. They look better. And like I said, hair can really change a sim. Like, for example, actually, I was expecting that to look horrible and it doesn't look that bad. But yeah, hair can really change how a sim looks. So what I tend to do is create them bald, get like a face shape that I'm happy with, and then I will add some hair, and then if I'm not completely happy with the face shape, I'll completely play around with it again with the hair on until I am happy with it. It's a very like hit or miss situation. I do sit and create a sim for ages. Like, I go back and forth so frequently, it's so bad. I'm just gonna give her, no, I give every sim this hair recently. There are some custom content hairs that I've been using so often, and it's just because I absolutely love them. Also, what I wanted to say about the noses is I tend to go for something that I know is gonna work well if I am playing a generational game. For a nose, I'll go for something that I know will work well in the next generation, because sometimes you'll have like quite a pointy nose, and then when your sim is born in-game, it kind of defaults to the super pointy noses, and they're like a bit too defined for my liking, especially with the masculine noses. They are definitely a little bit, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about, but they're a bit too defined for me sometimes. Even though I have quite a defined nose bridge in real life, in the Sims, it kind of looks a little bit strange to me. Whereas I feel like when your Sim is born in game, they're automatically given like a default nose in a way. So I always edit them up to give them kind of a smoother nose, as you can see. I really have no idea how this video is going to turn out. I feel like it's going to be a complete mess, but I mean, I've just made this Sim in like the past 20 minutes, and to me, she looks really cute. Like, I would genuinely just plop her into one of my games now. I think she's adorable. But I guess the main points that I can give you guys is just try to step out of your comfort zone. That's the only way that you're going to get different looking Sims. Go on crazy inspiration sites, go on Pinterest, because I know there's a lot of Sims subculture on Pinterest, although I have never personally myself used it. I know that a lot of people do for builds and for Create a Sim as well. However, I find Tumblr the most helpful. Like I said, there are some really cool looking Sims on there, kind of like anime-ish, and then you also have like the realistic like Instagram model kind of things that people do, like the edits and stuff. Your Sims are never really gonna look like those because those pictures probably do have like super mad edits on them, so never feel like disheartened if your Sims in-game don't turn out the way that they look in a specific screenshot, because like I said, people go ham on Photoshop with their Sims. Like, if they be looking like Ariana Grande, it's probably because they've taken a screenshot in game and then they've messed with the lighting in Photoshop. They probably airbrushed it and just done so many different edits on it that it's never gonna look like a screenshot in game. So don't feel disheartened by how Sims look, and also look at either celebrities or models, see different features, take them in, and just try to play around with what you already have as a base canvas, because that's all you're really going to build from. Like I said, I really don't think it's a bad thing if you have a style that you're comfortable with. Everyone grows from a certain style, and that's how you're really gonna get into creating these Sims. So don't be ashamed that all your Sims are currently looking the same. I assure you, if you play around and create a Sim, it doesn't even matter how long it takes, unless you don't want to be sitting in there for hours. But for me, like I said, I created her in 20 minutes. I'm quite happy with the way she looks. Like, I would probably use her in my game as she is right now. I think she's super cute. And just go out on a limb and do something that you're not used to, because that's the only way you're ever gonna explore Create a Sim to its fullest potential. I'm gonna end this video here because it's been just a massive jumble. I know I focused on a female Sim, but all of these are the same for male Sims as well. With the males, I do tend to have a little bit of a longer jaw for them. However, the eye placement is always the same, the eyebrows are always the same. So the placement is always kind of the same, but then the jaw shapes and the eye shapes can really change a Sim. So thank you guys so much for watching. I don't know if I missed anything out. If I did, leave your questions down below and I'll reply to you back in the comment section, because I feel like my head was all over the place during this video and I was trying to come up with it on the spot whilst also trying to focus on a Sim, which never works well for me, let's be real. I can't particularly multitask very well. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this helped some of you, and I promise I'm gonna try to diversify my Sims as much as you guys are. So we're all gonna be working on our Create a Sim styles. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will speak to you all in my next video. Bye guys!